And welcome back. Although Namibia has made progress in reducing income inequalities and poverty levels, and actually yet the country still remains to be one of those countries with the highest levels of income disparities in the world. The introduction of the National Equitable Economic Empowerment Framework, NEEF, is expected to significantly reduce income disparities in our country. Wide consultations have been held, as well as cabinet workshops on the NEEF strategy. And joining us with more details is Presidential Advisor on Youth Matters and Enterprise Development, Daisry Mathias. Quite a mouthful. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Always lovely having you here. Perhaps we can start off by reflecting on yesterday's official opening of the cabinet workshop on the National Equitable Economic Empowerment Framework.
Very good. The cabinet workshop on NEEF was presided over by His Excellency the President at State House and attended by cabinet ministers, deputy ministers and senior government officials. The workshop had one objective: to present some of those contentious issues that have arisen from public consultation and to seek policy guidance on those issues. And these issues range in nature, and they include questions on definitions, such as what is a previously disadvantaged person or what is a private sector enterprise, and also looking at matters of compliance and monitoring, as well as the financing mechanisms for the framework. The workshop
Yes, no, I wanted to find out from you also, as a youth advisor, we've understood the statistic or the number we're sitting at with youth unemployment, 40% 43, which is quite a high number. Do you believe that NEEF speaks to and is responsive to the plight of the youth?
Yeah. The socioeconomic difficulties that are facing the majority of young Namibians today cannot and should not be divorced from our apartheid history. There are a significant number of young people who are now facing a double dilemma: the challenge of high income inequality, which is attributable to the high level of unemployment, and secondly, a large wealth gap, which is as a consequence of the restricted economic participation of their parents or they themselves prior to independence. Those parents who were previously disadvantaged could not access opportunities to accumulate wealth that they could now bequeath to their offsprings. And as a result, we have a generation of young people who, even those who have been born free post 1990, are unable to accumulate the wealth required in order for them to participate meaningfully. We see this manifesting as a barrier for aspiring entrepreneurs who are unable to leverage financial instruments in money markets because they do not have the asset base in order for them to pool collateralized capital.
Okay, so what provisions specifically in NEEF address the plight of these unemployed youth?
Great. So NEEF is looking at homegrown response to the unique challenges that are facing our country. The noble intent of NEEF is to accelerate empowerment and transformation by enhancing ownership and management of productive assets of the economy. The framework is constructed around 5 pillars: ownership, management and control, human resource development, skills development, enterprise development and market access, community investment and innovation and research. The latter 4 pillars of enterprise development, human resource, those are the ones that have the highest catalytic potential to stimulate job creation and capacity building for the young people.
All right, that should make it interesting. Will the youth form part of some of these schemes? I suppose the answer is yes, because I understand one of the questions asked by the President, who should be targeted to participate in an empowerment scheme. Perhaps you can broaden this up for us.
Yeah. What we should make very clear is the President emphasized yesterday that we cannot allow the status quo to continue. One of the objectives of the workshop is to hopefully reach a consensus between government and stakeholders on the way forward so that we can promulgate and enact. The young people, by definition, are included as a previously disadvantaged person through descent.
Okay.
And the president also emphasized the type of empowerment model that we should pursue with NIF, one that is focusing on cascading downwards to communities and to groups rather than empowering a handful of individuals. And considering the demographic profile of our country, it is a significant number of young people who have the potential to participate and to benefit from the provisions of NIF.
Yeah, which was also one of the fears of those who were opposing this bill, so to say, that it will only benefit a handful. But Daisry, talk to us. The president also mentioned a reformed Economic Advisory Council, whose membership will basically be drawn from the different industries. Will the youth be given an opportunity here as well?
The Economic Advisory Council will be constituted of members appointed from various sectors, and I anticipate it is consistent with his inclusive stance that President Geinkop will appoint members to represent the very sizable constituency of the youth.
And obviously seeing that it should be beneficial to all inclusive and so forth, when can we expect this policy to come into effect?
The way forward following yesterday's concluded workshop is Cabinet will now deliberate on the outcomes of that workshop and will revert, providing opportunity for further public consultation on the way forward. And once there is agreement, the bill, the current NIB, will be revised to include the reflections of those suggested proposed changes, and thereafter promulgation, enactments, and operationalization. President Geinkop has indicated his desire for this bill to become an act before the end of this year, 2018, or once the outlined process has then been completed.
All right, Daisry, while we have you here as the Presidential Advisor on Youth Matters and Enterprise Development, we always tend to see as one particular project or policy to be the savior of a certain situation that we find ourselves in. In this particular scenario, it's youth unemployment. What other avenues are there that are addressing youth unemployment at the moment?
In the context of NIF, NIF is an overarching policy which will not necessarily supersede the existing legislative frameworks that are in place. We do have an industrial policy, we do have the growth at home sector strategy, we do have the national MSME policy which was adopted very recently, December 2016. And these are all policies aimed at industrializing so that we can create job opportunities through the productive sector of the economy. To name but a few, of course, there are skills development strategies and heavy resources being channeled to skills and vocational education and training so that we can have a base of skills in order to drive the job creation.
And one last question, because young people, in most cases, we can speak up and say, unemployment is high, but we are not well informed, so to say. Is there somewhere we can go where a young person who's watching now can get all this information and know exactly how to plan their sort of not just career, but skills development?
Well, it is very important for young people to align themselves to the national development agenda, and it is important that they review and internalize the national goals and targets outlined in the Harambee Prosperity Plan, which is the immediate policy priority, as well as the NDP 5. Within that, you could look at sector strategies for skills development through the Namibia Training Authority so that you study a demanded for course. The information is available if you are engaged to seek and find it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Daisry Mathias, who's the Presidential Advisor on Youth Matters and Enterprise Development, talking to us about the cabinet workshop that's focusing on the National Equitable Economic Empowerment Framework. That's NIF. Do stay tuned. We'll be back.